Ever feel like you're carrying around like a bag of rocks?
Mm-hmm.
But like emotionally speaking,
Oh, right.
we all deal with negative emotions, but sometimes they kind of stick around longer than we want them to.
Right.
And so today, we're going to go on a deep dive into how to let go of those like heavy feelings for good.
Okay.
We'll be using a YouTube podcast
Yeah.
called How to Let Go of Negative Emotions.
Interesting choice.
Yeah.
Video podcasts are a great way to learn because they engage multiple senses.
Right. And this one's got a ton of useful info.
Okay.
It starts by talking about why we tend to hold on to negativity in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think we would just naturally gravitate towards the good stuff,
Hmm.
but our brains don't always cooperate.
Yeah, that's because of something called negativity bias.
Oh.
It's like this hardwired tendency to focus on and remember negative experiences more strongly than positive ones.
So it's not just me being a pessimist?
No, not at all.
It's like evolutionarily ingrained.
Exactly.
Wow.
Imagine you're an early human, remembering where that poisonous berry patch was,
Right.
or which cave had a saber-toothed tiger lurking inside.
Oh, yeah. You got to watch out for that.
That was crucial for survival.
Yeah.
The brain evolved to prioritize those threats.
That makes sense. But these days, I'm more worried about deadlines than dire wolves.
Oh.
So how does this negativity bias play out in our modern lives?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
One critical comment can overshadow a dozen compliments.
That's true.
Or a minor setback at work can ruin an otherwise productive day.
Yeah.
Our brains still react like those negative experiences are life or death situations.
Yeah. The podcast makes a really powerful analogy.
Right.
It says that holding on to negativity is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get hurt.
It's a very vivid
Yeah.
image, and
Yeah.
it highlights the fact that the person most affected by holding on to negativity is ourselves.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we get why we cling to these feelings.
Yeah.
But how do we actually break free?
Well, the podcast outlines a 5-step process that really resonated with me.
5 steps. Okay, I can handle that.
All right.
Lay it on me.
The first step is to acknowledge and name the emotion you're experiencing.
Okay.
Instead of pushing it down or pretending it's not there,
Yeah.
just give it space to exist.
Okay, so instead of saying I'm fine when you're clearly not, you'd say something like,
Right.
I'm feeling frustrated right now, or
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about bringing those feelings out into the open where you can start to work with them.
okay.
And, there's some interesting neuroscience behind this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
The amygdala,
Right.
the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions,
Mm-hmm.
actually calms down when we label our feelings.
So just by naming the emotion, we're already starting to diffuse its power.
Precisely.
Whoa.
It's like saying, hey, fear, I see you, I feel you,
Yeah.
but you don't control me.
Right.
Right.
This is making me think about how often I try to ignore uncomfortable feelings, hoping they'll just disappear.
Yeah, we all do it.
What's step 2?
Step 2 is all about mindfulness,
Okay.
which is the practice of observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Uh-huh.
It's like taking a step back and becoming a curious observer of your own internal experience.
Okay, but isn't that just going to make me dwell on the negative even more?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The key is to observe without judgment.
Okay.
Imagine you're watching a movie.
Okay.
You can see the characters and the plot unfolding, but you don't get emotionally invested in every scene.
Right.
Right.
So it's about creating some distance between ourselves and the emotion.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be helpful.
And there are a lot of ways to practice mindfulness,
Okay.
from formal meditation to simply paying attention to your breath for a few minutes.
Okay.
The point is to create a space where you can simply be with your emotions
Hmm.
without getting swept away by them.
Okay, so we've acknowledged the emotion.
Yeah.
We're taking a mindful step back.
Right.
What's next on our journey to letting go?
So the third step is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It's about reframing the story we tell ourselves about the situation.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
So instead of replaying the same negative narrative over and over,
Yeah.
we try to see things from a different angle.
Exactly.
Okay.
The podcast suggests asking yourself a few key questions.
Okay, like what?
Like, is this emotion serving me?
Okay.
What can I learn from this experience? Is there another way to look at this situation?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get stuck in a victim mentality.
All right.
But by asking those questions, we shift the focus from
Right.
why me to what now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about reclaiming our power
Mhm.
and choosing how we want to respond rather than just reacting.
Okay, I'm definitely adding those questions to my mental toolkit.
Good.
What about step 4?
Step 4 gets physical.
Ooh, yeah.
It's called release physically.
Interesting.
The idea is that emotions are energy,
Okay.
and that energy needs an outlet. Sometimes the best way to process those feelings is to move your body.
This makes total sense.
Yeah.
I know when I'm feeling stressed, a good run or dance session can work wonders.
Uh-huh.
It's like I'm literally shaking off the negativity.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything intense.
Oh.
Even just a few minutes of stretching, deep breathing, or shaking your body can help release that pent-up energy.
So it's not like I have to go run a marathon every time I'm upset.
Right.
Okay, good to know.
The podcast mentioned kickboxing as a way to release anger and frustration.
Oh, interesting. Have you ever tried that?
I have,
Yeah.
and it's surprisingly effective.
Really?
There's something very cathartic about channeling those feelings into powerful physical movements.
I bet.
But, even something as simple as gardening or doing the dishes can be a form of physical release.
That's a good point.
It's about finding what works for you.
So we've named the emotion practice mindfulness, reframed the story, and moved our bodies.
Right.
What's the final step in this letting go process?
Step 5, and perhaps the most challenging one, is forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness can be tough,
It can.
especially when you've been hurt or wronged.
Yeah.
The podcast really emphasized that it's not about condoning the other person's actions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay.
right.
It's about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying that anger and resentment.
That makes sense. But how do you actually do it?
Right.
How do you forgive someone when you're still hurting?
It's a process,
Okay.
and it's different for everyone.
Mhm.
Sometimes it involves having a conversation with the person.
Right.
Sometimes it's a more internal process.
Okay.
The podcast suggested writing a letter, expressing your feelings, and then burning it or tearing it up.
That visual really struck me.
Yeah.
It's like you're literally releasing those negative emotions
Right.
up in smoke.
And sometimes forgiveness is about forgiving ourselves for our own mistakes or for holding on to the pain for too long.
That's a good point. We can be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have these 5 steps.
Mhm.
Acknowledge, be mindful, reframe, release physically, and forgive.
Right.
But how do these steps actually play out in the real world?
Well, the podcast shares a story about a woman named Sarah
Right.
who used these steps to overcome resentment after a difficult breakup.
A breakup that's definitely a relatable experience
It is.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Have you ever been through something similar?
We've all experienced heartbreak in different forms. I think
Yeah.
Sarah's story is a powerful example of how these steps can be applied in a very real and personal situation.
Absolutely. Tell me more about her journey.
Yeah.
How did she use these steps to move forward?
So Sarah started by simply acknowledging her anger and hurt.
Okay.
She journaled about her feelings,
Mm-hmm.
allowing herself to express the raw emotions without judgment.
Okay.
This is her way of acknowledging the reality of her experience.
So she started with that crucial first step,
Yeah.
giving those feelings a voice.
Exactly.
What does she do next?
She started incorporating mindfulness practices into her daily routine.
Okay, like what?
Taking walks in nature,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on her breath,
Okay.
and simply noticing the sensations in her body without getting caught up in the stories her mind was creating.
It sounds like she was learning to be present with her pain without letting it consume her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she took a brave step and started to reframe her narrative.
How did she do that?
Instead of seeing the breakup as a personal failure,
Okay.
she chose to view it as a valuable lesson.
Okay.
She started asking herself questions like, what can I learn from this?
Mhm.
And how can I use this experience to grow?
So she shifted her focus from blaming herself to finding the opportunity for growth.
I love that.
It's a powerful shift in perspective,
Yeah.
and it allowed her to reclaim her power and start moving forward.
But what about the physical release?
Yeah.
Did she find a way to shake off those negative vibes?
Yes, she did.
Okay, tell me.
She joined a kickboxing class.
Yeah. And found that channeling her energy into those powerful movements was incredibly cathartic.
I can imagine that feeling of release.
Yeah.
Throwing those punches and kicks, letting go of all that frustration with each movement.
Exactly.
And then finally she tackled the forgiveness step.
Yes,
That must have been a tough one.
it was.
Yeah.
She wrote a letter expressing all her hurt and anger towards her ex.
Okay.
And then, as a symbolic act of release, she burned it.
That image really resonated with me. It's
Yeah.
like watching all that negativity literally go up in smoke.
It's a powerful visualization.
Yeah.
And for Sarah, it marked a turning point in her healing journey.
Oh, wow.
She was finally able to let go of the past and move forward with a lighter heart.
Her story is so inspiring It really shows that these steps can work even in the face of something as painful as a breakup.
And the podcast emphasizes that Sarah's story isn't unique.
Okay.
If she can do it, so can anyone listening.
I love that.
We all have the power to choose how we respond to negative emotions.
I love that message of empowerment.
Yeah.
We don't have to be victims of our circumstances.
Exactly.
We can choose to let go and create a more peaceful and fulfilling life.
Exactly. And to help make these steps even more accessible,
Okay.
the podcast offers some practical tools and resources that listeners can use.
This is where it gets really practical.
Yeah.
What kind of resources are we talking about? I'm all ears, especially if they mention any good apps,
Okay.
because I'm a sucker for a well-designed app
Mm-hmm.
that actually helps me, feel better.
Well, they do mention a couple of popular mindfulness apps like Headspace and MoodFit.
Mm-hmm.
These apps offer guided meditations, breathing exercises, and other tools
Okay.
to help you cultivate a more mindful approach to life.
I've dabbled in Headspace before, and
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
It's like having a pocket-sized meditation coach.
Exactly.
Did they mention any books that go deeper into this topic?
They did. They recommended Letting Go by David R. Hawkins and The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
Okay.
Both explore the science and practice of releasing negative emotions from different perspectives.
Okay, those are going straight on my reading list.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Sure.
Because honestly, I'm feeling inspired to make some changes.
Beyond apps and books,
Okay.
the podcast really emphasizes the importance of cultivating a daily practice of gratitude and breath work.
Well-
Even just 5 minutes each morning can make a world of difference.
That's doable. I could definitely commit to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like they say, small changes can lead to big results.
Exactly. And you know what strikes me about all of this
that?
is that we often think about letting go of negative emotions as a way to reduce stress and find peace.
Right.
But what if it's actually a key ingredient to unlocking greater happiness?
That's an interesting thought. We tend to focus on pursuing happiness directly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
maybe the path to happiness is actually paved with the stones of letting go.
Precisely. When we're weighed down by negativity, it's hard to see the good, to appreciate the beauty around us, to connect with others authentically.
Right.
It's like those negative emotions create a filter that distorts our perception of the world.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how my mood can impact how I interpret even neutral events.
Right.
Like if I'm feeling stressed,
Yeah.
everything just seems like a problem.
Exactly.
But if I'm feeling good, even minor inconveniences just roll off my back.
Right. And when we actively choose to release those negative emotions, it's
Yeah.
like cleaning that filter, allowing ourselves to see things more clearly, to experience life with greater vibrancy and appreciation.
So it's not just about eliminating the negative.
Right.
It's about creating space for the positive to emerge.
Exactly.
It's like decluttering your emotional closet
Mm-hmm.
so you can actually see what you have and make better choices about what to wear.
I love that metaphor.
Yeah.
It really highlights how our emotional well-being is interconnected with our overall happiness. When we tend to our emotional garden, weeding out the negativity and nurturing the positive, the flowers of joy and contentment naturally begin to bloom.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
We started by exploring why we cling to negative emotions.
Yeah.
Those pesky remnants of our evolutionary past.
Right?
We uncovered a powerful 5-step process for letting go, starting with acknowledging those emotions and culminating in the liberating act of forgiveness.
It is liberating.
And we saw how those steps can be applied in real life through Sarah's inspiring story of overcoming resentment after her breakup.
Such a great story.
We even explored some practical tools and resources to support us on this journey.
Right.
Mindfulness apps, insightful books, and simple daily practices like gratitude and breath work.
It's amazing how much those simple things can help.
But perhaps the most profound takeaway is the idea that letting go of negativity isn't just about finding peace,
Right.
but it's also a pathway to greater happiness.
That's a powerful reminder.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we have more control over our emotional well-being than we might realize.
Mm-hmm.
We have the power to choose how we respond, to let go of what no longer serves us,
Yeah.
and to create space for greater joy and fulfillment in our lives.
I love that.
So as you go about your day, remember those 5 steps.
Okay.
Consider those resources.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, ask yourself, what's one emotion I'm ready to release to make space for greater happiness?
That's a great question.
It really is. Until next time, keep diving deep
Yes.
and keep exploring the fascinating depths of your own inner world.